Intro. Welcome to the big leagues, kid. Before we get into it, congratulations on reading the second book in the Salesman Pocketbook series. Your future self commends you, and your present self would not regret this second piece. The only thing you might regret is that I didn't write more, but that is why there will be a third book. Crowd raves. For those who are early to the third book, I haven't actually published my third book yet. And to all who support the Salesman Pocketbook series, sincerely, thank you. I am working vigorously to put the final book of the series together. For others who may have picked up the collection, use this hack to better digest the material. Right after this, pick up the third book and start reading. You will learn about how I drive leadership throughout my team and my business, and how that can translate to more sales, more competence, more team engagement, and overall an excellent way to win together. The mindset. Whether it's a store manager, a sales manager, a fast food manager, or even a lot manager, we usually have more on our plates than we would like. There are those times when we do enjoy the busy conundrum of our tasks, but at times, a lot of them, it can feel dauntless month in and month out, day in and day out. That is why I've dedicated a great deal of my sales career to developing not only the right team by coaching the players correctly. Remember, like you, I actually had no say in their hiring at all. Yet, we still perform to being number 1 to number 5 in the company every month. That translates to higher motivation from team members, bigger paychecks, and probably the most important of all, more engagement from everyone at this location. In my years of managing sales professionals, they weren't always professional, and even I myself struggled to find that kick-ass salesperson who knows exactly how to win that I always mention about. I've come to learn that by fostering an open-minded, comfortable, yet still competitive and driven work environment, you can experience greater sales success. Think about it, like the busyness similarity of Wall Street with all the phones ringing, sales being made, go, 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 action, 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 but none of the drama that occurs with the money being made. And when the good money does come, which it eventually will, by fostering this type of environment, you get less egotism and cockiness that can come from unchecked success. It's all in how you develop your team from day one. But for the very best managers, it starts way before that. So, just to break away from the book for a second, just to share a little bit about this part. So, when I started my kiosk, we didn't know a lot about leadership, and that led to a lot of problems. There was a lot of promises not being kept, a lot of turnover, a lot of money being stolen, a lot of sales being lost, a lot of arguments. The whole thing was just bad. And as I grew through my profession, I look back at that and I think a lot about the things that I could have changed with the skills that I have now. And not to look back on it in a way of regret, but in a way that if I had a chance to go back there and do it again, we can actually make this business run better. And so that's why I am writing this and reading it to you. So you can take these ideas, take the abilities and skills you have now and retry your idea. I don't know if anyone knows, but I've actually tried to write this book about 20 times. And I talked about it in my other audio book, if you will, about procrastination and what it kept me from putting out that book. But more on that in a bit. Fostering the perfect environment for success. As a manager, you aren't required to be a prime example of how someone should live their life to the T. And you don't want to be that manager that says, do exactly as I do. Finding the balance between watch me and think about it for yourself and tell me what you come up with is very thin and sometimes can be crossed too easily. Most of the time, emphasis on most of the time, managers are top performers, if not the best performers. So it seems only right that we want to do the job to be done right and proficiently, so we can focus on other tasks that are more important. But the hard truth, and the best one, is that everyone learns differently. And the first thing you can do is a little bit of a drum roll. Develop a patience for the less educated in your field. Your underling does have a bachelor's degree in accounting, so I don't think he's less intelligent than you, but he doesn't know how this company operates. Show them how you operate and invite them to add their own spin to it. This is the reason I've truly created this pocketbook. Nobody told me this before, and I never thought about it. This is for the managers, whichever level you are at. I'm sure you'll find value in knowing and using this material, than not knowing and never achieving what it is you set out to do in your developing career. This is for the day one managers who never had the mentor I wish I had when I was thrown into management and ownership. This is our pocketbook. Welcome. So, just to give some perspective on where I'm at and what you might be hearing in the background. So, right now, I'm actually in a small room in a house. And it's actually a closet. But it's just big enough that I can place my mic and my laptop in here, sit down with my book, and record this audio for you. So, let's get into it. Chapter 1. Sometimes you start with a dumpster fire. When I was 19, I was barely out of college and running my third startup. Really. And the small mall of Billings MT is where my first experience of true taste of what management wasn't. It was in this mall I would come to understand that it's not just what title you are, but who you are and what you value that speaks volumes of the way you'd like your business to run. You won't always be given the best players or the best cards in the game to start off with, and that's okay. True manager leadership isn't about starting in the best possible position for you, but starting in the best possible position for your newly appointed team of future kick-ass professionals. That solely means that you might have to start 2 to 7 years ago with the basics of your profession. Remember the intro? Develop a patience for those less educated in your industry. Though starting off with the best possible members who have the best possible skills and the best work environment is highly favored, it is a fictional fantasy that the very best managers know they have to create themselves. They also know that if that were to be, then there would be no challenge for them, no need for a manager, no purpose, so why keep the job? That being said, I'm sure most, if not all, are competitive. if not with anyone else, at least with themselves. That means having newly entered brains is better than having already developed catalysts when you want to grow your management skills. This also means that you have 100% responsibility to what their viewpoint of your industry will be. I've seen so many great sales professionals leave their trade and industry in disgust of what goes on behind closed doors, including myself, behind the client's back, and the clearly manipulative tactics used by higher management on a daily basis. This is not okay by any means at all, and stinks of pure greed and desire. This would put anyone off, and if your salespeople catch this, they'll be out the door faster than you can get your next purchase order. If you had zero awareness of it before, well, now you should be figuring out if you've been conniving in any type of manner, and you know when you have been. Don't worry if you ever have been. I haven't been the greatest manager ever, and I'm still learning how to be better all the time. So for both of us, we're about to discuss all the ways to get our teams moving, get them growing the business, help get them positive, clear-minded, and ready to take the risks necessary for success, the right way. Are you ready? A lesson in how to not manager. Back to when I was working on the development of my third startup, I had two partners, Mina and Solomon, or as I called him, Salmon. Solomon was the investor who was never talked to, never heard from, the too busy for anyone type. He never came in person, and I never ever seen him, ever, and I was top performer of the year. Mina was on the ground sales floor of every store we had put up, until he wasn't on the ground anymore and decided to stay in Egypt. That is when I learned that you gotta be putting in the work, just like your team does. Too much time away and you'll risk them becoming unmotivated and at worst, rebellious. When we initially set up the kiosk, I was with Mina for the first few months and it was awesome. I learned how to print onto shirts and hoodies. I did an advertisement for our kiosk on social media. I even hung posters and sent out invitations with discounts. It was an amazing experience. After the holidays passed and we were into the new year of 2020, Mina flew back home to Alexandria, Egypt. I stayed and I began working the kiosk by myself. While this was my startup and I managed it, at the end of the day, it wasn't my company. I was also promised a lot of things, like moving to New Jersey, time off for my family, travel to help other owners with their stores, company trips, compensation, etc., etc. Yet none of it ever happened. Don't promise what you can't or won't give. Alright, back to the reason I'm telling you about my worst experience in management. I worked alone at the kiosk for about 2 to 3 months, and in that time, I went through about 7 to 8 employees. I say alone because there was no real teamwork being done, only clock in, clock out, not much else. These were all people I found with no help, usually from inside the same mall we worked. With no real application process, there were so many people that I just threw into my business. It wasn't until I enlisted the help of one of my dear friends who was also promised a lot, usually by me. See? Even I've done wrong as a manager too. It was then I got a real taste of what being a bad manager really is, and how easily it is to be one. I would promise Randy time off for his family, promotion, traveling, ownership, and everything I could think of, because at one point, in the beginning of this very hard and long journey, I thought that giving people things meant they would never want to go somewhere else. And even then, I never gave much besides the promises that were never fulfilled. Sick of our ownership and my management, which wasn't much, Randy decided to leave the company. I was back to cycling through employees, churning through them like hot wood on a hungry fire. That was when a light bulb went off in my brain, that it wasn't their fault that my business was failing. It was my fault. Chapter 2. Management is being human. When I had the breakthrough and the actualization that I needed to be a better manager in order to get the results I wanted, I still didn't know how to do that. Back to square one. I pondered what I could do. My investor and our company's owner, Solomon, was starting to pull out, and we'd be forced to shut down. Mino was throwing all the excuses he possibly could for my performance, and I had nothing to show besides a bad track record of employees and the dumpster fire I had unknowingly created by poor management. My third business was starting to crumble, and in this breakthrough, I had realized that I needed to learn how to connect with other humans better. I want to say I figured it out then and there what it was I was missing, but it wouldn't be for quite a while. Nowadays, I could finally piece together the puzzle of the entirety of a manager's purpose, to be able to write this book to tell you, current managers, how to be a better manager and lead the charge with your team. So just like the first book with the skills to be the kick-ass sales professional, here is a list of skills I studied to become the badass manager I am today. Empathy. You need to have some level of ability to be able to put yourself into someone else's shoes. Primarily, they need to feel like you care, and you should care. Remember, before business, we are human. Accountability. If you aren't doing it, don't expect anyone else to do it. Walk your talk and get it done so everyone else can start following suit. Time management. You need to block off time for important tasks for your team like training, one-on-one, development, career and goal planning, operations, etc. Active listening. You need to hear your team when they are talking to you to come up with a good solution and not just a quick fix. Growth mindset. You have to want to learn and try new things to grow. Your team needs to feel confident in trying new things and coming up with the new ideas as well. Development in others. How someone best learns can be huge in their development. Contouring to their style of learning can translate to quicker confidence in their own abilities. Setting professional boundaries. What's okay at work and what's not okay sometimes needs to be talked about. When you have a collective goal you are trying to reach together, some things just don't belong or have zero purpose or may even be wasting time. Emotional intelligence. Learn how to gauge and engage your team's feelings. Knowing how to speak to their emotional brain, getting them aligned with your business goals and initiatives. Humility. Remember, you are a small cog in the machine. You need the entire thing to work before you can get necessary output. That requires patience and knowing you don't know everything yet. Self-starter. When you find a better process and want to test it, do it. If you don't take risks in trying change, then you are bound to the chains that shackle you to this world. No one needs to tell you to do something that is already expected of you. And furthermore, you should be doing the things that are unexpected of you to gain the ground nobody has ever conquered before you. Forgiveness and humor. No one has the experience you have, least of all your new recruits. Take time in improving what they don't yet know. When they do make a mistake, have a sense of humor instead of the likes of a parent scolding their dog kid for peeing on the blankets for the millionth time. They should be comfortable to make a mistake if it's good in nature, not incompetence. Missing a cell or two is okay and necessary for learning. Success, though, is always a good teacher. Need some water. Alright. Coaching and training. Getting your team prepared for action could be as simple as one meeting going over what we could be working on or have been working on skill-wise. It can also be as complex as a 6-week-long rigorous training course. Nonetheless, coaching is what is needed to gain new skills and sharpen current asset ones. It can be role-playing, objection handling, process development, and a variety of other ways that can sharpen your skill set as a sales manager. Motivation. Knowing what gets your team moving what gets them actionable and accountable. Remember, motivation isn't only watching YouTube videos. Shout out to my first book, If You Know, You Know. Motivation can also be what drives you, like money. A healthier lifestyle, better friends, a different home, a new car, etc. Knowing what your team members want can help you develop the best strategy to keep them actionable and accountable. So, what I usually do, at least with my teams, to break away from the book just for a second, if you didn't notice, was every day I actually wrote up about 2 team huddles. And these team huddles were about 5 to 10 minutes each. And they'll go over just the things of a good human being, of a good salesperson, of a good person in the community. And that would be finding all the possible promotions, making sure we're up to date on promotions, making sure that we're using our best offers, making sure that we are reaching out to people that qualify for the best promotions right now because they might not later, and making sure that people are doing things on time. If people, for instance, had a deadline that they needed to meet, well, we would make sure that we can meet that deadline for them, or to make sure that they meet their own deadline so that they can get the best possible value. And in going in these team huddles, I implore you, do that with your team. Go over these skills, because there's a good chance that everyone knows these, but if we don't talk about them, we don't really think about them. To develop that in your team, you need to develop the winning culture. To put this in your culture is the thing that you should be doing every day, because that's what I did every day. That's how I made the number 1 team. That's how I was able to become one of the best sellers of the year. Chapter 3. I didn't exactly know how to title this chapter, so I decided to leave it blank and let you decide what to title it based on what you take from this piece. Go ahead and write it in the blank space provided above at the end of the chapter. I wanted to share with you now about my true establishment in management and how I dominated my area in a few short weeks. Creating hope. When I was new to the company as a seller, I was performing like everyone else. Maybe a bit above average, but not by much. After a few months, I actually thought about moving on and finding a different sales job. Even if I was at the top of the leaderboards within the company, I wasn't making nearly enough to fulfill the lifestyle that I wanted. It was almost like perfect timing. A position for a sales manager within the same company had opened up in Wyoming. Through there were better candidates who had longer tenure, better performance, even more accountability. I still put myself up to go out there though, and they chose me. While it was scary to take such a big risk, it was the risk necessary to my much needed and wanted success in sales, and as a sales manager. Once I was out in Wyoming, I began to flourish like I had never imagined I could. The location in Wyoming had a terrible reputation, from employees fighting customers in the parking lot to disregarding client concerns, even belittling clients and outright refusing service to them. Quality, right? Wrong. My first objective was to make sure everyone knew that the entire old crew was gone. I utilized several community forum pages and announced or posted that the store had new management, a new team, and probably most importantly, new ideals for our interactions with our clients and how we are seen within the community. Anyone who came in was greeted professionally, the engagement was cordial, and we got personable, explaining who we are, where we came from, and why we are out here. There, we were serviced the right way, and they were asked to let everyone else know that there was new management in town, and the old way this business was run is now dead. Yes, dead. Within a few weeks, we had people coming in when before none would dare step through that door. Having heard about this new team that can literally work magic, that nobody else had ever witnessed in the history of this store, let alone from this entire community of already engaged customers. Customers who were already with our company, but weren't our personal clients, began making more purchases once they dealt with us. They also became our best spokespeople out in the community. That led to an upsoar of generated clients and referral-based leads that we could follow. The secret sauce? Be the I can type of manager. Invest into your team's training. Your lowest cost, yet your highest return, is giving time and energy into marketing your services to the general population. I can go deeper in how to do just that. It's more so for leaders than day-by-day managers. If by chance you aspire to be a great leader one day, hopefully everyone here, in my third book, I explain true and proven results of leadership that can significantly drive your managers and overall your entire team to perform at absurdly productive levels. And terror. While I was doing all of this, there were the other stores that started to get more flack. Management scoldings, because this new kid on the block was blowing them out of water. Not even 1 month into my tenure as a manager, I was performing at levels unheard of at this location and unheard of in general. For someone my age, I was thought to be a high-performing seller and ideal for management, but this soon into the position and already doing well was not in anyone's mind. It created animosity against how I sold from other managers across the company. They were against how I trained my team, looking for any way to discredit me and my work. Nobody took it upon themselves to invest into their team's ongoing sales training or invest time into their pitches and objection handling. They wouldn't even invest time and energy into finding customers that we can practice our skills with in real time. While my sellers thrived like they never imagined they could. From 9-to-5s that provided a quarter of what they wanted to something that provided about 3 times of what they were used to making. Other managers in the company, almost across the entire company, struggled to align their team to their goals. Even more so to see a quarter of the level of success as this small store in Little Old Wyoming has been seeing since under new management. Managers were getting fired and demoted left and right. Some even left the company, realizing they had been providing little to no value to themselves by staying at a mediocre level in their performance. While I was thriving in my new environment, others had been stagnant, even so far as reversing their store's growth, having negative growth, or a decline in business. That is probably another reason this tiny book needs to reach the masses of sales managers and managers in general. I had no one to tell me of these kinds of simple yet highly effective secrets that my 18 to 20-year-old self would have killed to know, and what could have changed my entire career from a disaster at first to one of the top-level recognized managers in my current company. Passing this to everyone who can benefit from even a single chapter would change how many managers run their teams, overall hopefully improving sales teams across industries in general. Time will only tell of what this book achieved and what it was written and intended to be used for. For now, we can only move on to the second to last chapter. We will learn how to track your team's performance in your own way that focuses more on skill sets and sharpening strengths, rather than looking over only the numbers and finding weaknesses to exploit. While numbers are important and an indicator of proven training, they aren't the leading cause of what makes them higher than last month's. That appreciation goes to the skills of the seller improving, contrary to the popular belief in seek your weakest parts and make them your greatest strength. That ultimately doesn't make those digits go up, nor does it generate more purchases and ultimately more success for your team. Chapter 4. Training to Success. While I talk about training, and I've gone over a few ways you can train with your team, I should go over how to exactly do that, and what I've done to get my team to one of the best in our company. First, you want to get a gauge of what skills they may be lacking that are crucial to sales success. Think back to my first book about what skills a seller should have and could sharpen. On top of that, think about what may be holding them back. Is it their ability to close the deal and get the buyer to make the purchase order? Is it their confidence and knowledge in their products and services they offer? Is it how to handle an objection professionally and in a way that still gets the purchase order in the end? Is it their tone and the speed they are speaking with that loses clients, who in the end are confused and have to think about it? Finding what crucial skills are needed for your seller and team, unfortunately, does take time and patience to figure out. Sometimes even resources and opinions from outside professional perspectives. Fortunately, though, once figured out, you can then develop or find the training needed to handle this small but crucial issue to their overall selling ability. When you start running these scenarios, you will feel and see the improvement from your team that translates into sales growth and percentage of closed deals per door. Fortunately, again, doing it this way caters to each individual seller's needs in a one-to-one method of training and not a general team training like so many company trainings do nowadays. To see this in action, I used my own team. From day one, my sellers, who never had a sales job before, struggled with 2 of 3 things: selling confidence, objection handling, and closing ability. We spent the first 2 to 3 months of their training sharpening their confidence in themselves and who they are. I also showed them the meaning of their job and how they truly impacted the community through their services and promotional knowledge. I put them onto online closing classes, as well as ran scenarios of various situations with as many objections I had from my experiences in the industry, as well as absurd ones that we may never hear, but most we eventually did. We could call clients together and follow their lead lists until they felt comfortable to start doing it on their own. And when they needed help closing a client, they were always let know they can reach to me for help, and they'll still receive the same pay. No split, no loss on them for my support. The second 2 to 3 months, we spent tying up loose ends. Small things that can still make a huge difference in your sales performance, like questioning ability, networking strength, personability, geniality, script tweaks, product per door, more product per client, promotional knowledge, objective handling. This should be a regular part of every seller's training. Find new objections if you have to. If, big on the if, you are doing the things mentioned above, keeping your team motivated and providing reasonable feedback, you will see a translation of increased sales as well as more sales per door. Your team will throughout this time become more confident in you as their manager and even grateful for your continued leadership. They will not only have the skills and knowledge to succeed, but will now have something to always look forward to practicing too. A downside is there will always be new ways of thinking, and ideas are always being cultivated to generate more business, which means more learning. So, Chapter 4. Yeah, let's look at this. I want to say the first 30 days, no one knows who my sellers are. They're usually doing their onboarding, their training. They're not really cleared to sell yet. But those next 30 days and the next 90 days and the next 30 days, people start to ask, who are these sellers? And most of the time, those are my sellers. Those are my reps. And what we've practiced is exactly what I've laid out right here. We practice their confidence. We practice their product knowledge. We practice their closing. We practice their objection handling. We figure out how to personalize our solutions. We figure out how to make it that we're not so salesy. There's a lot of things that you can do with your team every day. But if we don't take the time to do that, how do we expect the dividends to pay out? This is especially important for inbound sales reps. Inbound sales reps are lucky because they have the customer coming to them. They just need to be able to close. Or prospect quick enough to find the clients to close. Another issue that a lot of sales reps face, barking up the wrong tree. More on that. Alright, here we are. The grand finale. Chapter 5. Fruits of your labor. Management isn't something that is supposed to push you to the extreme of your abilities. It isn't something that requires all of your time on and off the job. Contrary to the belief in micromanagement, very popular. True management is just like selling, except instead of the adoption of your ideas by a customer, it is the adoption of your strategies by your own team. You too can begin to develop the kick-ass team needed to completely turn your store around in as little as 3 to 4 weeks. To summarize the key points of this book. Number 1. What is it you are trying to accomplish, or what is the goal of the company? Number 2. Align your goals with your team's motivations to collectively produce towards said goal. Number 3. Train your members on the crucial parts that ultimately generate sales success: objection handling, closing, questioning, geniality, etc. Number 4. Tie up loose ends with minor tweak skills to produce a bigger impact. Number 5. Use productive feedback and additional mentorship to sharpen areas still in the gray. While there will always be areas you don't know how to improve, these can be outsourced if you can't learn it yourself. Sometimes you even have to create the budget and invest in your team so that you can get the improvements needed to keep moving towards business success. Without getting too spiritual, the main thing to remember is that this is a very long road to master, and because of the ever-changing information and new ideas being published, the idea of the best management strategies will never stop evolving. What will stop evolving is a baseline of what drives a team to perform at the best of its capacity. That baseline will always have the human core values that we explained here. I believe that any team that has even a few of these values we've gone over is at the top of their game at something. For the ones who are just getting started, I wish you nothing but the worst, so you are forced to become the best. Thank you. Epilogue. While there will be many ups, there will also be many downs. Some are unrecoverable, or so it may feel. In these days, moments, and times, it is best to practice what you teach and forgive yourself. Let yourself fail where the unknown is now known from that failure. Pass your experience along so that others can learn exponentially quicker from it, rather than going through the same motions you did so that new ideas can now be cultivated from budding minds. You may wake up now discouraged some days, out of place, feeling too authoritative, or not up to the job, but what you are feeling is a slight repercussion of your continued success. Pivot a little, and remember that you too are still learning this skill, and in that learning you will figure out how to get this to go away entirely, just like I have, like many before us have. Just before you know it, you may be elected, promoted, or even solidify your spot among leaders.